Want to have another person maybe take a look at that, Mr. Pryor, to see if any
we're gonna
additional
answer,
assistance
probably.
on that device.
You heard a gunshot then?
Yeah, and it was like, and they said it was a raccoon. And it was about that same time we had set the timeline to Ron because we checked our phone and it was like what is the Rob Wood? Is that the prosecuting? Okay. We had talked to them and we had looked it up on our phone records to try to put it together, you know. But like our neighbors up here, like they will go shoot birds and stuff in the mornings. And so we'll hear that sometimes, but it was close. And like our bedroom window's right here. And we sleep with the window open most of the time because
Did you see anybody out there?
no, but we just heard it. So that's what we were thinking. We're like, it was an afternoon because he would have been at work. That it would have been morning.
Morning.
So.
Huh.
Anyways, we'll just keep thinking.
Yeah, no, and even details that you're like, that's probably nothing. We take them, right?
Well,
I mean, at
that's
this
what
point,
we decided after we told him because we're like, we sat on it for a while and then we're like, well, maybe it will help, So
yeah.
Just our timeline experience with them.
Yeah.
Because we weren't around them a lot, but the few times we were, it's easy to remember because we weren't around them a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for talking with me. I appreciate it. I'll let get back to your kids, and I'm sure we're all you're all over the news right now. Fox News, CNN.
I was actually kind of glad that it wasn't all day. I'm like, are we gonna hear that like all day? Because it was like nice. This is the most peaceful this road has been in so long.
Don't have to worry about kids. They're
Yeah.
no one here. So
Probably like this, not cartoon.
We seriously do because we were gonna build our house this year, but I told you like we wanted to get the rest of our debt paid off before we built that. We're just gonna build that here. And we went out there to scope out where we were gonna put it, and I'm like, do you hear that?
Judge, I can stop at this point.
like just that much further away from it, and you don't hear it. Cool. Good.
At least I think I can.
All right.
So, Ms. Price, you've heard the audio tape, and I believe that goes back to June 9th of 2020. You recall that now?
If that's the date, but yes, I remember that conversation that I had.
Okay. And then you made some comment that you heard a shot and there was some discussion about raccoons. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then there was a further discussion about and it's unclear who you provided a timeline to, but you provided a timeline to somebody. Do you recall?
So my husband and I both discussed just some strange events that happened with the Daybells over the last year.
Okay.
And it was my husband and I creating a timeline together because like I've stated, I don't have any dates,
Okay.
but there was enough going on that we were trying to figure out where everything was so that by the time we did talk to a detective or a police officer, it was informational and resourceful and beneficial to
And
them.
do you recall in a later interview where there was a discussion about you and your husband made some mention about that he'd be a really good detective? Do you remember that discussion?
I remember that in the audio, but
Okay.
that was my husband, not me.
Okay. And do you remember the discussion that you would work through Joe Murray to try to get some information about locating the kids,
I do. I remember that.
and that you'd be willing to wear a wire.
I do. I remember that. There was children missing and I was willing to do whatever it took to find these children.
Right. And then in addition, there was some talk about the fact that your husband in the past had plowed up, done some cultivation for Joe's garden or something like that.
Yeah, that's correct. He did it for a lot of the neighbors around the
Right.
neighborhood.
And Officer K had offered to,
Objection, hearsay.
was there a discussion about using?
Hold on, there's a pending objection. It's sustained.
Was there a discussion about using police funds to help pay $50?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you engage in any discussion regarding accepting payment from the police to doing certain?
Objection, hearsay, misstates the evidence.
Overruled.
Did you do any kind of a discussion with the police for some sort of payment to work with the police and regarding the Daybell case?
I think in reference to that conversation that you're talking about, Officer K just comically said that, and it was more of a personal, it wasn't as an officer using officer funds.
And you took that as a joke, is that right?
I did.
All right, nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Beatty, cross-examination once you're ready.
Good morning, Ms. Price.
Hey.
Do you prefer that I call you Ms. Price or that I call you Regan?
Whatever you prefer.
Okay. I'll go with Ms. Price. So you testified that at some point you heard a gunshot, correct?
I did. Yes.
And that was in the early morning? Was that your testimony?
I believe it was.
Do you remember what day that took place? I believe it was your testimony that you didn't remember the specific day.
Yes, I don't remember the date.
Do you remember the time frame?
I don't. Just looking back at the audio, being refreshed with that, but as far as it's been 4 years, to my knowledge, it was just based off of that. It was morning, afternoon time, but not a specific time.
Could it have been at some point before September 9th?
Definitely.
Could it have been at some point after September 9th?
I don't recall it was after September 9th.
Okay. And out in the country, is it uncommon for people to have guns?
No, it's very common for people to have guns.
Okay. Now, you briefly testified about your discussion with Officer K. Would that be Detective Kaya Kamanu?
It is, yes.
Okay. And you joked around with him?
Very briefly.
Did you ever accept payment from law enforcement?
Never.
Okay. And if I may have just one moment.
You may.
And I have no further questions for this witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Beatty. Oh, hold on, we've got
Sorry.
direct possibly.
Sorry.
You may.
Ms. Price, you don't have a direct recollection of when you heard that gunshot, correct?
I don't.
But did you recall hearing on the audio tape that there was a combination of a gunshot, a raccoon, and the name Chad Daybell? How often does those three happen on a particular day?
Objection misstates the testimony, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Judge, I have nothing else. Thank you.
All right. That will conclude the testimony of this witness. I don't know if she's appearing under subpoena. If so, I'd like to inquire whether or not she can be released from the subpoena.
And Your Honor, I believe the state did have her under subpoena. We would release her from our subpoena at this point.
And Judge, the defense has her under subpoena, and we're releasing her as well.
Okay, that concludes your testimony. Then you can go ahead and leave.
And Judge, could we have a quick sidebar?
Yes.